Welcome back to Visited by Voices Obscurity Report. Tonight we will be covering The House on Skull Mountain, a film you've probably not heard of, and that's a shame, and we need to change that ASAP. Joined, as always, by my co-host Sam.
Arise, chicken, arise.
There we go. Daniel Shine.
What's up? I wish I had my glow sticks for that opening intro.
Stone Gassman.
Greetings and salutations.
B-Movie Mike.
Hey, what's up, guys?
We're Gal Susan.
Hey, everybody.
And the ever-present and always triumphant Jay the Stingray.
Hello, glad to be here.
Does everyone have beverages tonight?
I have some delicious coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Water.
I'm going simple tonight with one of the last cans of the original formula, Zero.
Enjoy it while you can.
To be honest with you, it's kind of a mistake because it's really ending the end of its life, so the sweetener is sort of starting to peak in the wrong direction, if you know what I'm saying. So the end is nigh.
I hate it when my sweetener peaks in the wrong direction.
Euphemisms don't have to stretch that far usually.
I don't know if it's a euphemism.
So The House on Skull Mountain is a film that I wanted to promote on the show for a lot of reasons. One of which is just that this is a film that gets so much right in so many different ways to me. I don't want to influence anyone else's thoughts, but to me, a good gothic horror film with its feet firmly rooted in the traditions of the 30s and 40s, but modern enough to be diverse, overly diverse perhaps even, but never, ever veering into the point of ostracizing any of its audience. It's a crowd pleaser, in my opinion. So I think it serves a lot of masters and does so really well. And I really wanted to make sure that if this is something you guys didn't have on your radar, that we fix that. But I also want to make sure everyone who watches this finds a way to watch it soon, which we'll discuss its availability at some point. It's not impossible to find at all, but it's unfortunately underrepresented in the media that we usually like to support. So let's go around the table. Whether this was your first viewing or if not, when did you see this before? Not talking about our feelings about it yet, just our history. Sam?
Haven't seen it until this morning.
This morning. She was today years old.
I was.
Dan?
Well, I do have a story behind it. I saw it. I don't know. I don't remember exactly when I saw it, but my parents growing up were, well, particularly my mom was a big Little House on the Prairie fan, and of course I'm a horror fan, so little different. And I discovered a film called I Was a Teenage Werewolf from 1957 with Michael Landon, who starred in that.
Michael Landon.
Yes, because my mom never watched horror movies. She saw 2 horror movies in her life, Rosemary's Baby and Play Misty for Me, which petrified her, and she never watched horror movies again. She saw the latter film on a date with my dad when he was in the Navy. So, yes, so that it just scarred her. She wouldn't watch horror movies. So I thought, she loves Little House on the Prairie, so I think I can get her to watch some of these films. The second one I discovered with Victor French, of course, this film. I showed it to her. She thought it was stupid, but unfortunately had a different view of the film than I did. But yeah, it was my mom's 3rd horror movie ever, and I think she might have, to this day, seen maybe 6. So there you go. So it holds a special place in my heart.
Excellent. Stone?
I had never heard of this movie before. And we'll talk about what we think later. But I've never heard before. But interestingly enough, when I looked up if it was on physical media, it was only available on a 20th Century Fox midnight movie double feature with the Mephisto Waltz from 1971 with Alan Alda. And unfortunately, that DVD is now out of print. But Yeah, I never heard of it before, and I'm interested in hearing everybody's opinion on it.
B movie Mike.
Yeah, yesterday was my first viewing. It must have been one of those that slipped through the cracks because a lot of cinema from that era is some of my favorite. You know, I've seen the Devil's Reign and Race with the Devil and all the classics, right? And I love these type of films. Maybe I saw it and don't remember it, but I was kind of shocked to see Mr. Edwards and Lionel Jefferson. You know, I was like, this is an odd pairing. This should be good. Yeah, and I'll save my thoughts for later. But yeah, yesterday was the first time I saw it, and I was glad I did. It was, good time.
Susan.
Good times.
This was my first experience with this movie. I had never even heard of it before, and I was pleasantly surprised. So to Dan, I have to say that if your mom thought it was stupid, it's because she has never seen the volume of stupid movies that we've all seen. I'm just saying. But no, I'm just kidding.
That's a true statement.
But I mean, honestly, because this actually has thought behind it and everything. So yeah, this was my very first viewing, and I was super excited to watch it and to find out about it. And Lauren suspected that I would really like it, and he was spot on with that.
Jay.
First time watch. It feels like something I would have watched like on a Saturday afternoon on like WGN or something like that. But yeah, I've watched a lot of stuff like this when I was a kid, and yeah, I'm glad I saw it. You don't really see a lot of voodoo horror movies, so cool to see that.
Yeah, so this was a film that oddly was not a cable TV or a UHF staple back in the day, and it wasn't in every video store. I think we can all, although you probably have seen the poster for it because the poster is kind of infamous. The film itself was an obscurity, and that's kind of a sad thing. Now, I came to this film in, I guess, around 1993 or 4. When a friend of mine was offloading a bunch of old VHS tapes, and I bought the entire lot. And it probably was the last one I put in because my thoughts were, especially when you consider 1974, because that period of 1969 to 75, things had great posters, and usually the films were not great. Because it was the birth of the exploitation film in America for all intents and purposes, and in that time period, a lot of things were being made very cheaply. I always use Beware the Blob as my example of a film that we all want to be great, and then you watch it, and every time you're like, man, that's not great. But it was the last thing I probably bought that I brought out of that box and put in the VCR. And I thought this was like the most poetic, beautiful thing in the world at the time I watched it, and I was shocked. I mean, I went to my Encyclopedia of Horror Movies and found it and read the listing, and the listing was like, it's okay, hokey dialogue, whatever. And I was like, that's not what I just watched. So it's one of those films. I know I have mentioned it before on Region Free when we've been talking about some more obscure films just in passing. But usually in my private life, if people know me long enough, they eventually get sat down in front of a television and forced to watch this movie. So it was always going to be on this show. It was always going to happen. But I think it's weird that it is a film that virtually no one knows. And it's not like it was a small release. It was, it was a Fox release, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is not a small indie by any means. This is a film that got a real release. It just somehow has slipped right out of the published consciousness into the void. So, very interested to hear what all of you think about it. The one thing I want to say before I turn it over to you guys is people always talk about Let's Scare Jessica to Death. That's a film that is very much still in the public consciousness. And I always pair it with this because I always feel like both of them are what the 70s did so well, which is kind of let a scene play out, let the audience live in a world. Even though this is only like 90 minutes long or something, you feel like you've spent a substantial amount of time in that world, and that's big and important to me. So Sam, what did you think?
I bought the DVD, the 2-pack with Mephisto's Waltz before I finished watching the movie this morning. I found it on eBay, so I'm very pleased. This was wonderful. It's like The Haunting with voodoo. I'm just like, good. I'm there. I think voodoo is super interesting anyway, and given that it was 74, it's like I wasn't sure what to expect. Kind of like not, probably thinking maybe more in the exploitation realm, but it didn't have that at all. It definitely did feel rather poetic, and I mean, I don't think there was, the incest didn't bother me as much as I thought it would. Although there's no actual incest, but Philippe is like way too interested in trying to sleep with his cousin.
I don't blame him.
I mean, no, I don't blame him either, except for the fact they're related.
Yeah.
Distant. Come on.
Yeah, and then Lorena's got a thing happening with Andrew Cunningham, who I guess he was adopted by the Kristoffs, perhaps. Am I incorrect in interpreting that?
It never really says.
Yeah, it's vague.
There's a lot of things that it never really outright says.
Yeah.
I was thinking he was adopted by the Kristoff family, so it's like when he and Lorena have their kind of little date, it's not quite as creepy, but I'm still like, but he looks too much like Mike Lindell, and I keep waiting for him to bust out into like a Brillo promo, and that was a little weird. I mean, everything else was great.
Dan.
Again, going into this, I'm a big fan of blaxploitation horror, which this really isn't. Well, I mean, it is, but it isn't. It depends how you define that. But 1974 was a big year for that. Sugar Hill came out, which is one of my favorites. I actually played the Robert Quarry character in a fan film that never got finished, sadly. So big fan of that. I've got a Blackula doll looming overhead. I love those films, but this surprisingly got kind of deep as far as some of the race issues, which could have been maybe explored a little bit further, but his speech to his cousin Lorena was like, wow, this is 1974. This is heavier than I would have expected, because I mean, let's be honest, a lot of those films were not certainly not deep. I love Blackula, I love Abby, Dr. Black, and Mr. Hyde, but a lot of them were on the cheesy side. This one, I don't know, it doesn't get any credit for being a good horror film, because I actually think it is. Hey, it's Victor French sword fighting an evil voodoo villain. What else could you want? I don't understand why my mom thinks it's stupid. I'm gonna make her watch it again. I think it's a fantastic film that everybody should check out. It is in HD, I know that, so I don't know what the holdup is. It seems like maybe a Kino Blu-ray at some point should happen, but it's a good time, and I think if people look deeper into it, it's not exactly what you think it is, and it's a lot better than its reputation. I don't know if it's Mike Evans' character at the beginning. For some people, there's a few cheesy lines here and there, but there's a lot more going on in this one.
I agree. Stone.
I might be the one that dislikes it the most out of all you guys, but let me just say first and foremost, look, I'm all for blaxploitation. I mean, on Region Free, I spent about 20 minutes talking about the original blaxploitation classic, which is Sweet Sweetback's Badass Song, written and directed by Melvin Van Peebles. And I'm all for Pam Grier, Friday Foster, that kind of thing. And when I started watching this, I just said to myself, you know what? Anybody that builds a house on top of a mountain with a skull on it deserves everything that comes to them. I thought it was cheesy and rather ridiculous and rather, dare I say it, juvenile. I didn't. I mean, if I was 14 years old and I was watching this like on an early Sunday morning, I would probably have gotten a little bit more enjoyment out of it. But unfortunately, I thought it was. Unfortunately, I just thought it was kind of a weak sauce movie. I mean, as far as horror is concerned, I mean, I found the cast very interesting. I'm probably the only one that knows Victor. I recognized Victor French immediately because I'm a huge fan of An Officer and a Gentleman, and he plays the stepfather of Deborah Winger, who looks at Richard Gere all weird and think, "Oh no, here we go again." They're just going to have sex. She's going to get pregnant, and he's going to go off to Hawaii or something and leave her or whatever. And he had this weird look to him. That's all I know him from. But I'm just thinking, I mean, would it have really hurt to make this cast all black? I mean, I kind of wish. I mean, I the whole time I was just kind of asking, where's William Marshall when you need him? Because I like the Blackula movies, and I like other films of that period. The best thing I could say about this film is that, I mean, look, it kept my attention. I don't find, I mean, when every time like you saw a shot of the skull with the candle coming out, I'm like, okay, there's some pretty neat visuals here. The snakes did nothing for me. The voodoo sequence near the end, oh God, I wanted it to end at that point, to be perfectly honest. And can I say real quick, B-Movie Mike, because I'm glad you called out Lionel, and then you said Good Time, and I was thinking, well, that's really funny because after
he co-created Good Times, yeah,
created Good Times, yeah, exactly.
And there's a character named Michael Evans on the show Good Times.
Yes,
and his name is Michael Evans. Yes,
and I'm glad that Dan brought up Michael Landon and Teenage Werewolf, because actually. Victor French was really good friends with Michael Landon. I mean, they worked together on Little House on the Prairie, Highway to Heaven. I was about to say Highway to Hell, but I mean, from what I understand, like on the bonus features in Highway to Heaven, like some people said, no, they were like super close, super close friends, and sadly, they both died very young. I mean, they died at the age of 54, both of them, but. Yeah, I mean, I'm almost tempted to watch it again because I have a feeling I'm going to be the only one on this panel to be a little negative. Because, like I said, it kept my attention at the very, very least. There were things I liked about it, but mostly I just found it rather forgettable. But I'll throw it to the next person.
All right, Mike.
Well, I didn't know what to expect going into it. We have a one-time director whose claim to fame at that time was like producing 8 seasons of Gunsmoke, which is where he probably met Victor French and begged him to be in his movie. Because Victor French was a recurring guest star on that show quite often. So then I saw Lionel Jefferson, and I was thinking, okay, this is going to be weird because he didn't really do much after the Jeffersons. He went into producing and writing and stuff. He just kind of disappeared. And on that show, he was the original, and then they replaced him, and then he came back. So I hadn't seen the guy in a long time. It took me a little while. I was like, man, I know that guy from somewhere. And then when Victor French showed up, I'm like, oh, what are we in for here? We got Mr. Edwards. We got Lionel Jefferson. This is going to be weird. I'm not probably as positive as some of you are with the movie, but I'm not as negative as Stone. I do like haunted house movies, and it seemed like a very low budget 70s TV style horror movie with questionable acting in some places. But, like Susan said, we've all seen dumber movies, so it's not like I can really crap on it too much, But in the end, I was happy I watched it. It was the tonal shift when they go to the city for their little day out.
The montage, yeah.
That was like one of those. Where'd this come from? Why are we here? What's the point of this sequence? You got voodoo shit going on at the house, and people die. Oh, they had to leave so the one lady could die. That's the only thing I could think of. It was like, how are we going to get these two out of the house so the lady's by herself? I don't know. We'll send them shopping. It seemed kind of random and out of place, and the music was just kind of oddly, just such a tonal shift that it took me out of it for a minute. The evil voodoo priest guy, I got a kick out of him. He was chewing the scenery pretty good. He was a hungry hippo there. And then the sword fight, it was classic. I mean, Mr. Edwards doesn't fight with the sword. You can tell. But he tried, damn it. He tried. The elevator, it's Chekhov's gun. Once you introduce it, you have to use it. There you go. It was kind of clunky. I don't know. It was just, it screams the time period. That's for one thing. And for that, I loved it. It's definitely, you put it in and go, oh yeah, we're in the 70s. Oh yeah. I mean, I was probably about 6 years old when this movie came out. So I still have faint memories of that era, but I do remember it. And yeah, I mean, that was the 70s. I was kind of waiting for Mr. Edwards to say something about all the implied incest going on, because normally that's something you would associate with a person his color in a different state. If you know what I'm saying, I think you do. So yeah, that was a bit weird. And yeah, Lionel's character what was he? What was his point? Was he just there to be there? I mean, I don't know. I do have a lot of problems with the film, but overall I did enjoy it, and I could definitely recommend it. Check it out. It's on YouTube. But just don't go in expecting great things, but you might find something you like, and I did. It was pretty good.
Would you like it more if you had gotten the House Has Eyes sequel?
I was good with the first one.
All right, Susan.
Okay, so what can of worms do I open first?
All of them.
Okay, so first of all, I feel like this movie low key says a lot without having to smack you in the face about it, and especially for that time period, seemingly, that was kind of a cool message to send. The campiness, I'm all in, because here's the thing. It kept the campiness in a certain pocket, and it didn't let it get out of control. And when you thought it was going to get out of control, that character died. Now, I don't have the history with knowing some of these actors, so everything was a blank slate for me when I watched it. But I feel like there was a reason, like when Stone said, why wasn't the doctor character a black man? That was kind of the point. And so as far as the movie on the whole, I really enjoyed it. I think that I don't know how many people here actually know someone that practices voodoo, but I do. So while some things could be hokey, the element and the message underlying that, I feel, was pretty good, because intention can do much more and be much more horrifying and scary than other things in horror movies. Because I don't know, maybe if you haven't seen it, experienced it, that sort of thing, but people putting their intention, people don't have a problem saying, pray for somebody. They want the intention, right? But when they see voodoo represented, oh, it's hokey and it doesn't really? Okay. All right. So that's my say on that. As far as how it's represented and if it was authentic for that time period or not, I obviously I cannot say. I don't have any history with that. I don't know. But I think the fact that it was injected into this movie and so prominent in it, I think that really sent a message probably for that time period. And so I kind of commend it for that. And I think that it kind of low key reminds me in similar ways of The House on Haunted Hill, and kind of had like there was a similar thread going through it. And I don't know. I enjoyed it. I love the campiness. That implied, is this incest or not? What's going on? He's hitting on his cousin. that was a little awkward and off-putting for a moment where I'm like, am I missing something here? But the cheesiness of let's go shopping in Atlanta was totally fine with me. I'm like, this is so 70s movie. I love it. So I was totally fine with that.
There's only so many options on the prairie. I mean, I'm not going to judge him.
And is it really any different than the shopping scene in the middle of Night of the Comet, if we're being honest?
Exactly.
It's just different eras.
Yeah.
Jay,
That's more of an 80s trope, though.
Yeah.
The shopping sequence or the
well,
montage.
then this was ahead of its time.
Not in a good way, but yeah, I agree.
Jay,
I think I'm going to kind of lean towards the way Mike and Stone feel about it, but there is a lot that I liked. I like the opening title sequence where the title catches on fire. I thought that was really cool, really well done. I like the matte paintings.
Yes.
For the house. And Dan, is this near you at all? Are you able to visit?
You know, I was going to surprise everybody because the mansion is now
man.
the Callenwold Fine Arts Center, and
Oh my
I
gosh.
could go there. It's not far.
Oh,
It
cool.
was the son of the creator of Coca-Cola had owned it, and
Oh, wow.
yeah, it you can visit it. It's beautiful.
That's
very
so
cool.
cool.
Very cool. Yeah, I saw that in the trivia on IMDb. Man, I feel like the dance sequence at the end was like way too long, and I got like Matrix Reloaded vibes. Like you mentioned glow sticks earlier, I think they all needed some glow sticks at that dance party. I'm like, what was up with them like waving the knife in front of the lady? And they kept.
That's a
acting like they were
ritual.
covered.
That's
Is it?
a.
Okay.
They're doing rituals, the whole thing. And so when you're watching that, I believe, and this is just me being the top movie reviewer that I am, I believe that they held for so long on that to make you as uncomfortable as she is.
It worked.
There's some authenticity there. Some of it may seem goofy, but yeah.
Yeah, I think they consulted with some people to try to make it
Okay.
as realistic looking as possible.
That was one question I had because it did seem really hokey to me. A lot of points, but I mean, you know, I don't know a whole lot about voodoo, so
It takes a while to invoke the Loa. You gotta get into the groove.
You know, very very questionable acting in there for quite a bit of the film. But you know, I get it. You know, it is what it is, and you know, I'm fine with that. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It's probably not something I'm going to go revisit very often, but I did enjoy it, and I'm going to buy the poster for sure. Looks really cool.
the poster's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
You know, guys, this when I was researching this, Janie Michelle, who plays the lead actress Lorena, returned to the horror genre just recently as Marie Laveau in a film called Gothic Harvest.
Oh,
Awesome.
cool.
Bring
I'm
her on
gonna
the
write
show.
that down.
Lynn Shay, Bill Moseley. I haven't seen it, so I don't know if it's any good, but yeah, so I thought that was interesting.
So I assume that Lynn Shay got her 3 days of work at well above scale from everyone else.
I am sure she did maybe 2 days.
Exactly. That's the Lynn Shay thing, and pretty much the Bill Moseley thing, unless he's on the back end of a project, right?
Yes.
Philippe, like he hit on everybody, right? I mean,
Yeah,
he was related to everyone there.
Damn, Lutely.
He did not
He didn't
care.
Yeah. So I was kind of glad when he, you know, spoiler alert, but I'm glad when he went out first because he was a bit of an asshole. His character.
Yeah.
He was introduced as an asshole, and he never had a redeeming moment.
Right.
He just died a drunk asshole.
That's why he had to go. He had to go. He was hitting on his cousin. You have to go. That's it.
They denied us the Jefferson's Little House on the Prairie brawl, though, that I wanted there, but you know,
It looked like it was going there for a minute. I think Mr. Edwards would have stomped a mud hole in his ass, but might have been the alcohol gave him the edge.
I wanted to talk a little bit about this film's visual representation of the supernatural, because in a way, it's very theatrical, and that's, I think, where maybe Susan is thinking House on Haunted Hill. But on the other hand, I find it really refreshing in an age of overwrought and underwhelming CGI to see really tangible representations of the supernatural. Almost a Dickens-esque Christmas Carol type of representation. And I think that is one of the reasons I love this. And I do love this movie. Spoilers, I'm going to have a really high score for this. So you can all hate me now. But this film is very actually special to me. And I wanted to also point out, well, no, let's talk about the representation of the supernatural first, because the next thing will be the next thing. How did everyone else feel about our robed skeletons and what have you?
I was fine with it, honestly. I mean, what I liked about this movie so much is that there was definitely more showing than telling, which, although I can understand where that may not translate super well with you, but especially with the scenes with the snake. But I'm pretty sure that had something to do with Thomas perhaps trying to invoke Damballa. That seems like what the end goal was, and Damballa is I've seen it symbolized as a snake. So there is a lot of really interesting symbolism, and also a lot of history behind the where the characters come from. So essentially, you know how Thomas is trying to usurp the Kristoffs, right? So if you look in IMDb, his last name is Petion. So back in the 1800s, Haiti was kind of split up. Henry Christophe controlled the northern part, with the capital being Cap Francois, and he was the president of the state of Haiti. However, in the south, I'm pretty sure it was the south. There was another gentleman named Petion, and then he was the president of the Republic of Haiti with the capital of Port-au-Prince. So that really, it makes sense when you go and you kind of look stuff up. So it has a deeper, richer history than we would necessarily give it credit for. Also, voodoo was actually suppressed under Henry Christophe, along with Toussaint. I'm sorry, my French. I don't speak French, so I'm butchering names left and right. And also Dessalines. Again, I'm sorry, I am butchering this, but voodoo was suppressed under Christophe, which I found that really interesting, considering it seems like there is a rich voodoo lineage in the Christophe family. But I'm not an expert on the genealogy there. I know that had nothing to do with how the supernatural is portrayed. But I had to go and throw that all in there too, because I think it's fucking cool. This movie is fucking rad. It's just you kind of have to dig a little bit deeper into the history too.
Sam is the queen of the cul-de-sac.
Does voodoo mainly originate from Haiti?
It's
Jamaica.
Yeah.
And West Africa.
West Africa, Haiti.
It's a big mixture of things.
Yeah, like Haitian voodoo tends to be syncretism of Catholicism, and it's more of a syncretic religion. So I find it amusing when it's written off as just kind of like hokey mumbo jumbo, because it's like, no, motherfuckers, that's a religion. Like,
well, yeah, and when you get down to it, the Catholic Mass has its traditions in a magic spell.
Yep.
At the end of the day, that's what the original intention was. So, I mean, I think culturally it's really easy to say, oh, well, that comes off as cheesy or whatever, but it's culturally, you reverse it and take a tribalist from North Africa and show them an example of modern Christianity. They'll probably think the same. Now, that's not to say that's a justification for bad portrayals. And if you guys think it's a bad portrayal, that's a different issue. But I think having a little bit of patience with it is rewardable.
Yeah, I don't know enough about voodoo charms, since we did see those show up several times throughout the movie, and seems to be like the voodoo charm that caught on that bled and caught on fire at the beginning on Pauline's grave. I was a little surprised, well, maybe not surprised, 'cause, I'm not an expert on this. I would have expected zombie powder, but that's cool. I don't, y'all do whatever you want with it. It's fine. I'm here to watch this voodoo movie. Y'all got me. I'm not going to complain about it.
I think in regards to like the effects, I find like nowadays, for most of us, most YouTube reviewers, modern films, there's always complaints about CGI. That's a theme I noticed just about every review. There's a point where somebody will complain about the CGI, and man, I miss these kinds of effects. I miss the matte paintings, which are just, they work. They work.
Amen.
They really do.
Amen.
So for me, I don't think there's anything that felt cheap or unrealistic. I love that, and I'm very glad to be able to go back and experience it, because it's a lost art now.
I think I find CGI just to be kind of glib. Like, ooh, look at how cool that is. And you can tell that you're supposed to be impressed by digital mastery of an image. Whereas, like, here, when we get our more supernatural moments, it all feels organic to the story. But then there's the additional, hey, that's a cool image.
Yeah.
It's just fundamentally different how we consume these types of effects versus modern effects.
I've got a lot more respect for modern effects, in camera effects. Then we'll fix it in post.
So, speaking of those matte paintings, did anybody get Dr. Weird vibes when the Skull Mountain would just randomly pop on the screen, like, for no reason in the background? Da, da, da.
No, but I was disappointed that Skeletor wasn't there.
Okay.
That's that television influence of the establishing shot of the still.
I love it. And it's just like, it felt so, I really got the feeling, I kept getting it, like, I kept fucking it up because I felt like the movie was taking place in Haiti, because it felt very, like, everything felt very authentic to me. I was like, no, they're still around the Atlanta area. I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
So the other thing I wanted to mention is definitely, so a couple weeks ago, a film came out called Candyman.
I've never heard of it.
And no matter what you feel about that film, that film felt it felt it was necessary to point out all of its themes and all of its so-called progressive nature, whereas this movie just plays its plot, and it leads with its story, and it leads with its atmosphere. I think it's an atmospheric film, first and foremost, which is probably why it wins me over, because that's all me. You put me in the middle of something uncanny and I'm good. I don't care if nothing happens for the whole screen time, as long as I'm in that world and I feel something. But I felt nothing, at least nothing good, during Candyman 2020/21. And this, I feel things constantly. And I think that this is just such a much more mature film in so many ways. And yet it was made the year after I was born, and I'm not a young man. That seems like a pretty big indictment about where we are as a society in filmmaking, to me.
Yeah, we're in the wake of the civil rights era. So.
Yeah, having been just a few years older than you, Lauren, I do remember this era of time, and this subject matter was quite popular in sitcoms and movies of the time. But again, it wasn't, you didn't make you feel like a baby seal, getting your head bashed open. Right. Like the modern equivalent does, which is why I can't stand it. It's like, if you have a point, make your point, but don't forget you're making something that's considered an entertainment. So don't stop entertaining me to beat me over the head with your message, because then that's just you can have the opposite effect. It's like if you have a friend that's a drug addict, but you keep telling them they have to go to rehab. Well, they're not going to go to rehab because you told them to. So maybe if you left them alone and just supported them and you were a good friend to them, maybe they'd realize sooner or later it'd be a good idea. This modern equivalent of beating people over the head with stuff. That's why I have a hard time with modern film for that reason. Although this film, I don't consider it to be as well written as some I've seen, but there again, it's a 70s exploitation film about voodoo. So, and I'm not expecting, award-winning writing, but the characters, the Philippe character, we talked about Mr. Jefferson. God, I could not stand that character. Was there somebody directing him, or did they just get him drunk and have him wander through the scene spouting stupid shit?
I think you nailed it. You nailed it, Mike.
Right there.
It was just so off-putting and just kind of taking you out of the story. I don't know who thought that was a good character or thought that was good dialogue.
Well, I wanted him to die, so that was cool.
Well, I guess they achieved that, but he didn't learn anything. There wasn't none of these people knew each other. They're supposed to try and figure out why they're there, and she had the lady that died had defeated her demons, but they were yet to face theirs, and there was like a cool build up there that just never really happened. The movie just kind of went meh. We don't really care about that. And even at the end, I mean, you have the voodoo priest defeated by the adopted white guy who's apparently his voodoo stronger because he was adopted by a voodoo family.
What? When did they say he was adopted?
I didn't hear him say
I
that.
didn't hear he was adopted.
They never said anything about it. That was kind of the frustrating part.
He's supposed to be blood. That's the whole.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
That's part of the.
Because he mentioned something about adoption, I thought.
He said they have that line of well, you're the wrong color. And
that was obvious, but
yeah, he has a kind of joke answer, and they just move past it.
Yeah, they never really say. So there's really there's no real resolution to the story. It's just like there's two left at the end. One's like, I'm going to hang here. The other one's like, oh, I'm going to take off. Oh, don't forget half this belongs to you. Okay, see you later. Okay, so where's the resolution?
I don't know that I would say there's no resolution. I think that if you wanted a pat resolution, it's not there. I think when you're dealing with these issues of hereditary and belief systems that are coming down through the ages, giving a real solid answer almost would be, to me, a little counterproductive. And that's not to undercut your objection, Mike. If that's how you felt about it, that's how you felt about it, and that's cool. I like films that end on ambiguous or open endings, and so maybe that's why I would give this a full pass. Because to me, like, if you actually had a scene at the end of Hereditary where they expel Paimon, I'm out. You just destroyed all your goodwill from me. Ending with the chant, perfect for me.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not sure I want resolution as much as I want to be like walk out of theater going, hey, there's still more I need to process. I want to see this again in 6 months and see where I'm at.
But isn't that kind of the point also with that kind of not a hard, fast, solid one resolution to it, that these two people are family, they're sharing this space, I don't know. I took a different message away from it. I felt like it was resolved. I mean,
well, I felt that, didn't he say he was there for answers? He had a lot of questions about his origin and who his family was because he was raised by people that weren't. But did he he's going to stay at the house to try to find the answers that he came there looking for in the first place? It was just all kind of, I don't know. I'm not saying I hate the movie. It's a 1974 cheap B movie about voodoo and a cool house on a Skull Island. I mean, or whatever, whatever. But I don't know. I don't know. There wasn't a whole lot of meat on the bones there for me as far as you set up a mystery, you set up questions that need to be answered, and then you have a drunken idiot walking around trying to bang his cousin for most of the runtime. It's kind of like, are we getting to the point here? Oh, we're going to go to Atlanta and have like a goofy little date and with music that doesn't match the rest of the film. And I don't know. There was a lot of things that I wanted to like it probably more than I did. There was a lot that I did like. The house was cool. That was a great setting. Whoever picked that, whoever the location scout was for that, thumbs up. Money. It was, they got their money's worth out of that location. That was awesome. There's just things about the story and the acting and stuff that really just kind of pulled me out of it. It brought my score down. I can't say that I didn't like it, but I wanted to like it more.
Go ahead,
Well,
Dan.
well, it definitely inspired an upcoming show for me because I'm going to do the Little House on the Prairie horror special.
Nice.
I've done
Oh,
so
okay.
much digging, and I even found Karen Grassel, who plays Michael Landon's wife on the show, just did a prairie-themed horror movie called Lasso, a werewolf film. So it's happening. I really do like this film a lot. I won't say it was my favorite blaxploitation horror film. I'm surprised. I don't think anybody brought up Ganja and Hess yet. That's also kind of a good double with this in a way. But I do like it quite a bit, and I hope it gets a separate release on Blu-ray. There is an HD print of it, so I don't understand why there wouldn't be at this point.
I just hope we haven't waited too long, because the market's definitely receding, and I worry that I worry who would be a Kino. You said Kino before. That makes sense to
Yeah.
me, but and that might be the only home that makes sense to me. Because at this point, unfortunately, since it's a Fox film, you got to think that it resides at Disney.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Cool.
So I don't know what Disney's how they would even prioritize this. So I'm kind of thinking we're where we're at, and this is how it's going to be, because I don't think we have enough time left in physical media for a film like this to get us just dirt. But maybe overseas, maybe just there'll be some great stream out there that can be ripped, and we can have at least the movie permanently in our collection somehow.
I think the HD variant is available on YouTube.
It is.
So if you have a downloader, you could just download the movie to your hard drive and burn it out on a DVD to have your own copy, if that's the only way you can do it. I mean, I don't support pirating or anything, but if they're not going to allow you a legal way to buy something and you want to preserve it, there's ways to do it.
I think it is a 720 print, which, hey, still HD. I'm still happy that I would just, at this point, I would love to get as much out of it as we could. That would be awesome. All right, let's go around the table with everyone's score of this film. Again, there is no unified scoring system on this show. However you choose, that's up to you. Let's go backwards and start with Jay.
5 out of 10.
Good.
Yeah.
Susan.
I would probably give this like a solid 7.5 out of 10.
Mike.
I think I'll one up Jay at just a half a point, 5.5 out of 10.
5.5 out of 10. Stone.
5 out of 10. That's good. That's good for me. Yeah.
Okay. Dan.
Well, we do 0 to 5 stars, so I'm going to give it a 3.5. I really like this one a lot.
Sam.
I'm gonna say 8.5 out of 10. I have enjoyed this movie more than anything else that we've done on Obscurity Report.
Wow.
Because it
Nice.
basically it's the haunting with voodoo. But kind of circling back to, what we were talking about previously with, being bashed over the head with messages. I didn't get any messages. I was like, oh, this is a story about a bunch of kids that are, estranged, and then they're brought back together by the death of their grandmother or great grandmother. One of those. Apologies if I've messed up that detail. And then kind of having to find out more about your lineage. And while I do agree, we didn't really get a resolution with Andrew Cunningham. I mean, the fact that he appears white doesn't do anything for me, because, like, my best friend was half Mexican and half white, and he looked white. He was like as pale as me. But
No one is as pale as
this
you.
doesn't affect me at all. I'm like, this is just regular shit. So that's why, I didn't really give a shit about that. I'm just gonna rag on the fact that it looks like Mike Lindell, and that's off-putting. It's a little crazy.
I need a bucket.
I think maybe since I knew him as Mr. Edwards, and I knew him as the guy from Highway to Heaven, and I knew him from Gunsmoke, that made it that much more jarring to me. If it had been a different actor, it might not have been such a, and Lionel Jefferson had to make a little bit of a deal about it there. But it was quickly.
You have to
version.
ask the question. It makes sense to ask the question, but the same, so it's like I got a chuckle out of it, but at the same time, I'm like, yep, business as usual.
Yeah, and I think it does, like Mike said, it does affect your viewing of it if you already know these people as other characters previously, other movies, other TV shows, whatever the case may be, where I didn't have that. I mean, I would probably, if it wasn't for the strange incestual attraction from Philippe at the beginning, I would be where Sam is with the 8.5. But I solidly believe the creepy incest could have been, they could have made his character not related or something if they wanted to keep that, because that was like awkward. But other than that, I would be right where you are.
I'm pretty sure I like
negative point
awkward.
for incest. All right.
I'm pretty sure I like awkward, so that probably helped the movie for me. No, the time period, the ballsiness, the physical nature of the effects, the atmosphere, that location. This is a solid B+ for me, and I understand that's not going to be that for everyone. I kind of know that when I walk into every Obscurity report that the films won't be for everyone. But I think this is a film that is criminally underlooked and needs a lot more eyes on it and a lot more conversation around it. It deserves it. If I've heard anything from all you guys, it isn't that you think this thing should be avoided at all cost. It's worth the watch. And I think for a certain type of fan who would like something that doesn't look like everything else, because certainly this doesn't, I think this is a big winner. Dan mentioned Ganja and Hess, a film that was always quoted in every source book as like the definitive black horror film of the 70s. I always like this more. Always. And I really suggest that if anyone watching this has been intrigued at all by the conversation, whether it's about incest, whether it's about floating skeletons, whether it's about dead people coming back, which we didn't even discuss.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. It's a fun movie. It's 90 minutes long, so it's not going to take up your whole day. It's not ponderous. It's never dull. I think you could do a lot worse. And again, if it stops you from watching a Halloween, a Friday the 13th, or a Texas Chainsaw Massacre for the 50th time this week, then I am all for you attacking the house on Skull Mountain. Any final words, people?
I'd like to make an addendum. I mean, I appreciated it so much in this film. I appreciated the atmosphere, the matte paintings. There was a lot I appreciated. I will say, if this movie magically gets a Blu-ray release in the next few years, maybe Via Vision in Australia could pick this up and actually put some extra material and give it some love and attention, I will most certainly revisit this. In fact, in 3 years' time, if I still have my YouTube channel, hey, I want you guys to come on board and do a 50th anniversary audio commentary for it, because I probably would appreciate it a lot more. The voodoo stuff, it just did not work for me. It's too hokey. I keep thinking of the rubber snake in Live and Let Die. Okay, that's unfortunately that's the thing with voodoo in me. It just does absolutely nothing. But
I'm literally making a puppet right now.
But I still appreciate
it.
Well,
let me go get the voodoo doll.
Yeah. I still appreciate it a lot in the movie. I'm glad I watched it. I'm glad I was here to talk with you guys, but I'm not going to bother with this in the next 3 years at least. We'll just say that for sure. But and I'm telling everybody right now, if you want it on physical media, get one of those DVDs now, because it's out of print, and who knows how much longer it's going to be available. Yeah.
Wise words, except about the snake.
Yeah.
That HD transfer looks way better than the one I watched. So, search for that HD transfer.
All right, Mike, take us out.
Definitely worth a watch. Love the atmosphere, love the house, love the location. The acting was kind of off-putting, but it's definitely worth a look. I mean, I love watching those cheesy 70s horror films. 70s and 80s, that's my era. So some people think Race with the Devil's cheesy. That's fine. I still like it.
I love it.
Burnt Offerings. If you like any of that type of stuff, you should have a good time with it. Voodoo doesn't bother me as much as it does other people. I got the symbolism. I understand it. I respect other people's way of doing things. It's cool with me. I thought at least they tried to make it well represented. But not the greatest, not the worst, but definitely worth a look.
All right. Thank you all. We'll see you soon.
Like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff.
Either way.
Do it if you like.
Nature.
Take a look.
Burned my skin. Futzed around in the water. Driftwood all over the beaches.